Let me see here. All right, so technically we're hot. Technically we're rolling here, but let's get this lined up. Oh my gracious, I'm working up a sweat, Bradford.
Yeah. Told you my heat acclimation's gone.
See, that's why I picked 2 o'clock, so
Yeah.
I could help you with that.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
That's awfully
Yeah.
considerate.
You're such a giver.
I know.
We would have been a lot cooler had we been allowed to stay in the front yard, had we not been chased off by all the...
No, nobody's ever accused us of being cooler. That's
wood
for
chipping.
That's for sure.
I mean, temperature-wise.
Oh, that's true. All right, shall we?
Yeah, roll some music.
Hello, everyone. Once again, ShiftLess. The podcast that's nothing but bicycles.
Only
cycling.
bikes.
That's all we ever talk about.
Only bikes.
Only bicycles. Maybe occasionally food. Dogs. Movies. Music. Man, Linkin Park's kicking ass.
Who gives a shit?
I mean, a fantastic new singer there. Her name's Emily Armstrong. And joining us today is Emily, but not Armstrong.
Hi.
Emily Newsom, professional cyclist. Yes.
Yes.
Lifetime Grand Prix participant. Yes.
Yeah, 3rd year.
3rd year.
Mm-hmm.
Some skins on the wall there. And DFW local,
Yes.
except when you're out and about racing.
Yeah, but I pretty much consider Texas home now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Where
Are you
was it?
originally from Texas?
No, Washington State.
Oh, okay.
Pacific Northwest.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's a whole...
And you came here?
Yeah, it's a whole other country.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow, I've never even been up there. I mean,
Oh, yeah?
I've been to the airport, the Seattle airport. I was flying to Alaska, and I stopped in, for whatever reason, we stopped in Portland and Seattle, and then on to Anchorage. So that's the only time I've ever been in either one of those states.
You kind of saw it then, though, from the airplane, I'm sure. Like
Yeah.
the mountains and so on. It's amazing.
Yeah. I mean, it was gorgeous, but I don't feel like I've actually been there.
No.
Yeah, you know.
Doesn't count. Airports don't count.
No, I don't think so.
So were you an outdoor soul up there, doing all of the cool, fun stuff out in the mountains and forests and everything?
Yeah, actually. So I grew up in a family of 10 kids.
Oh, wow.
And so my parents, especially my dad, was really big on us being wild children. So
Yeah.
we would just explore all the time. We had a big property. And then he would take us hiking up like Mount Rainier or Mount Adams, a couple other ones in that area. And we would get our big backpacks and hike all the way up.
Fantastic.
And then tent for a couple days and hike back down.
So the question that I'm immediately drawn to is, do you believe in Bigfoot?
You know, I didn't even believe in Santa Claus, so no.
Okay.
But I don't rule it out.
Okay.
Okay, but you've never met Bigfoot.
I've never met him. So I grew up like Santa Claus wasn't real.
Sure,
You know,
sure.
the Easter Bunny doesn't exist.
Right.
Sure.
So I think back then I would have said no, for sure not. And now maybe I'm a bit more open.
Well, understood.
It could.
Understood.
I just feel like that's the area that there's tons of Bigfoot, air quote, sightings. So I figured I'd ask. So you're a big time racer girl. You just got back. You went and did Schwamigan? I can't say
Schwamigan?
this word. Schwamigan.
Schwamigan.
It's not pronounced anything like it's
Spelled.
No.
Yeah.
It looks like Jaquamigan, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Something.
I had a complete brain fart the other day when I was trying to read it, and I was like, how in the hell do you say? I know how to say it, but I just could not think of it.
Well, it's one of those when it falls out of your head, you have to wait to hear somebody else say
Yeah.
it before you can remember how to
Yeah.
say it, sort of thing.
So I was talking to Kevin before we went, got live or whatever, and I watched the Lifetime Grand Prix footage on YouTube, which they're doing a phenomenal job with putting out footage. They're putting it out quick, and they're making it nice and clean and professional. It looks amazing. But Schwamigan's not a classic mountain bike trail race. I was like maybe yelling at the screen going, what is going on? This is not a mountain bike race.
Yeah,
Like,
it's strange.
yeah. How much is there any like, I realize that the coverage is better captured on the double track gravel areas. That makes sense. It's a lot harder to get into tight, twisty single track. But is there any tight, twisty single track there?
A little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's basically like the long, rolling Berkey Trail. So grass.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's huge. You can
Yeah.
pass anytime you want to. And then it funnels into single track. And then it goes back out onto like those gravel roads. So it
Yeah.
kind of alternates between the Berkey Trail, bits of single track,
Yeah.
and the gravel.
But super fast.
It is fast.
Yeah. I mean, the guys did over 20. I think Keegan's average was over 20 miles an hour, which doesn't scream mountain bike race to me.
Yeah,
At all.
it's pretty fast.
Yeah.
Yeah, I enjoy it. I'm not from a mountain bike background, so to me, I'm like, yes, like it's
Yeah.
not gonna hurt me quite as much
Yeah.
as like Sea Otter or something that's a little bit more technical.
Yeah.
It's very punchy.
Yeah.
So it definitely suits
Do you,
not me.
Yeah. Do you remember what the elevation was by chance? Any?
Like elevation gain.
Yeah.
I can look it up.
No, I was just curious.
Okay, I'm
Um,
not sure.
Because it, like I said, everything I saw, I mean, obviously, like I said, they weren't capturing the tight, twisty single track, but it was all like big, wide grass swaths, and some of it was just grass, and then some of it actually had like a beat-in trail. You know, you could tell that was the cherry spot, and then there was actual double track, and then there was gravel, and I don't think on the coverage I saw any actual single track.
I
Yeah.
don't recall them showing it, but I mean, obviously, that's not where the four-wheeler's going to fit in the
Yeah.
drone and all that.
Yeah.
So the coverage is going to.
Yeah,
I get it.
I get it.
So, but yeah, we were talking about it a little bit before you got here. So, from the Grand Prix perspective, what it's supposed to be half the races are gravel and half are mountain bikes. Technically speaking, is that how it's? And so, what it's Schwamigan for the mountain bike, Leadville, Sea Otter,
Yeah.
and is there another?
No, and then 4 gravel races.
And four
Yeah.
gravel.
Yeah.
Okay. So from a classic North Texas, what we associate with mountain biking perspective, I guess Sea Otter is really the only thing that's close to what we traditionally think of as mountain biking around here, right?
Yeah. I mean, all the mountain bikers don't really consider the Sea Otter, like you said, has a bit more of like traditional mountain bike
Yeah.
trails in it, but I would say all the mountain bikers don't consider the other two to actually be mountain bike races.
Yeah. Anytime you can
Yeah.
run a drop bar, it's not really a mountain bike race.
Well,
Right.
nobody at Schwamigan was on a drop bar, were they?
Dylan was.
Yeah.
Well, Dylan was on?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't. I missed that
wished
somehow or
I was.
another.
I was jealous. I think
Well,
it's the
I mean,
perfect course for
I
that.
was looking at it. Why wouldn't? Where did Dylan end up?
He did like 13th or so.
Okay, that's
Yeah,
right.
he did well.
That's right. That's right. And so he just with the drops, he just did get bumped out of the top 10 a little bit, but he's still right there if I remember right. But,
Okay.
Okay. I didn't realize he was drop bar. Okay, so I will look forward to that video. We had
Yeah.
Dylan on the show one time, so
Yeah.
that was pretty interesting.
Yeah, he
So,
knows his stuff. It's really cool.
It's
He is a super nerd. I love it.
Yeah.
But yeah, and quite frankly, the whole reason that you're here, well, it's not the whole reason. We specifically, because we're a couple of idiots, and that's the basis of this podcast. We really don't know what we're talking about, so when we start talking about subjects that we're completely stupid on, we like to bring in somebody that knows what they're talking about. And to be perfectly honest with you, what we're completely idiots about, well, I am. I think Brad will agree with him, but you're welcome to disagree.
No, I'm a complete idiot. You're right.
You know, we've thrown our thoughts and opinions about, particularly around the Grand Prix and women's elite cycling and gravel. But our thoughts on it, I mean, we're coming from, we really have nowhere to have an opinion on it or really know what we're talking about. But it really seems that we're at what I think in a positive way, critical juncture in elite cycling for the women. And I think gravel's really fed that. But with that, there seems to be not a downside to it, and not controversy, but things that need to be worked out.
Yeah, like
growing pains.
Yeah.
Growing pains. That's a really good.
Well, and there seems to be a lot of grumblings, and I don't mean this in a bad way, but coming from the women, and it seems like, and this is just my outside opinion, because obviously I don't have an ear to the ground, but it seems like it's from the middle to the back of the pack of the ladies that actually have the squeakiest wheel and make the most complaints. But like Kevin and I were talking about, from an organizer standpoint, how do you keep the women happy where they don't feel like they're given an unfair advantage to be able to draft off of a teammate or something like that? Like Schwamigan, for instance, they started the women 30 minutes after the elite men.
Ahead.
Ahead.
Yeah, the women started ahead.
So that seems like that would be even more advantageous for the women, because if they catch some of this, or if some of, am I thinking about this wrong? Was there any crossover?
Correct me if I'm wrong, but Schwamigan itself is kind of a one-off though, because it's short. Talking 2 to 3 hours, right?
Yeah.
As opposed to 6, 8.
Right.
Or
So
10
in
hours.
most cases, if the men started 30 minutes behind us, then for sure
They're gonna
it's
catch.
very advantageous for any of the women who are not in that lead group, and then even it's going to affect the lead group.
Yeah.
But Schwamigan is short enough that the lead men came in after the top 20 women had finished.
Okay.
So they didn't, I mean, maybe they affected a little bit the back of it,
Yeah.
but even then probably not that much, because
Yeah.
it's such a surgy race. It would be
Yeah.
pretty hard to take advantage of
Sure.
being with the men.
Right.
And then
So is it fair to say there was less grumblings after Schwamigan from the women?
yeah, and I guess the grumblings I hear are actually a lot in like the top 10 to 15 more so to me.
Oh,
And I don't
really?
know if grumbling is the right word, but
Yeah.
definitely opinions.
Opinions
Yeah.
on how things could change or potentially change.
Yeah, and how to make it a more true women's and pure women's race.
Yeah, which I can appreciate that, you know, and I wish there was a way that I mean, like Kevin and I talked about, every race is its own ordeal, but you know, ideally, like just pick a race and tell us how it could go better, like from a woman's perspective, because this is the stuff Kevin and I were talking about, and I was like, you know, obviously we don't know what the hell we're talking about as we preface this conversation, but you know, if there's no rule against women drafting off of men, then how are you going to voice an opinion where you don't think it's fair? You know, the only thing you can do is isolate them to where that can't happen, and then you don't have to create a rule about it. You don't have to hear anybody.
Or you create the rule.
Yeah, or you create the rule.
And I guess that's kind of where my open question is. Well, correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think even all the top 10 women agree on what the right approach is to anything. And then if you start even go further back in the field,
10 women will never agree on the same thing anyway.
Oh my God, you're going to get us canceled yet. You're doing your best.
It's true. But I mean, 10 men will never agree on the same thing
I
either.
understand.
You know?
But I guess that's from my perspective as an event organizer, I guess. That's where it gets tough for me is, well, maybe we can accommodate where these racers are happy, but then these racers here are very unhappy.
Yeah.
And that's where it gets tricky, and that's where I feel it gets where a lot of people go, well, just Kevin, make a decision. It's like, well, I can make this decision, but is it my decision to make? And try to keep an open ear, but that's where I get confused, is because I hear different opinions along those lines.
So I guess I've always been of the opinion with gravel, the beauty of it is every race is different depending what the director wants to do.
Yeah.
And I think that's really cool. And so you go do a BWR and you're going to have a mass start.
Yeah.
And sure, maybe like I'm not so used to that anymore. And, you know, it presents some big challenges. But yet I knew that signing up. So, okay, fine, I'm going to go do it. And then, you know, you have the Lifetime races, which now have women's separate start, but they haven't implemented the no drafting rule.
Yeah.
So I know that going into it.
So are you for a no drafting rule, or are you against a no drafting rule?
But I think it depends, and that's kind of where it gets tricky, is that there's a lot of gray area still because the numbers are building.
Yeah.
So if you have a big women's field, then I think no drafting on the men for sure. Because
so you're just saying not a no drafting rule, but a no women drafting off of men
exactly.
rule.
Well, that's what they mean by a no drafting.
Yeah,
rule.
I'm just clarifying for Tracy and
Sure.
Wisconsin.
Yeah.
Oh, been a while since we've talked about Tracy.
Yeah.
Hasn't it?
But it makes a big difference because if the age group men catch you and you're with them, like that can really, or if the men start, they don't usually start them behind, but if somebody flats, like an elite male flats, that can completely change your race. If you're like off the back and in 20th place, and he can bring you all the way back up to the women.
Yeah.
And it's perfectly fair and legal.
Yeah.
So I
have a problem with that is you can't really fuss about if it's perfectly fair and legal.
Exactly.
And so they should just make the rule then.
Right. And
so why wouldn't they make the rule?
What I've heard is they think it's going to be hard to enforce.
I get that. Agree.
See, I don't get that.
Oh,
though,
really?
Because, I mean,
But
doping's hard to enforce, but it's still a rule.
That's true.
You know, and so why are you going to say we're not going to make this a rule just because it's hard to enforce?
Correct me if I'm wrong. That's one of those rules that, okay, me as an organizer, maybe I can't have officials every quarter mile to make sure it's not happening. But that's one of those things where the racers can police it amongst themselves.
Absolutely.
Yes?
Yeah.
And it would happen. And I really can't see very many women like kind of going against that.
Yeah.
I just don't see that happening.
Yeah, the only people that would protest it would be the people that have benefited from it in the past.
Yes.
Pretty much.
Maybe. But I think
that's an oversimplification.
Yeah, because I think all the top women have benefited from it. We all have. Absolutely, it's changed my race at times, for sure.
So in retrospect, with the gravel races that have taken place, which ones do you think did a better job of properly separating the women and men's field?
I think actually Lifetime is doing a good job of it. Because, for instance, Unbound, they had the men start and then the women, and I believe they had like 25 to 30 minutes before the age group men started. And so I had a mechanical, as did my teammate. So we actually got caught by the age group men. It would have been the second half of the 200 miles. And so it did affect our race, and it did help us, but it didn't help us to the extent that we affected the top 20 women.
Yeah, but you had a better finish than you would have had you not had that assistance, obviously.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Or did you? Because
I'm not actually totally sure.
Yeah, because anybody, I mean, you didn't bridge up to women that weren't intermingled with men for the most part. Maybe a few here and there.
A couple, but then they also
But you're always
benefited.
bridging anyway, so.
Yeah. They benefited too, though.
Well, that's what
know?
and actually, so that's where, again, organizer hat on. That's where I have gotten the feedback both ways, and I recognize it both ways. So to put a hard, fast rule of no drafting with the men or with the amateurs or whatever else, realistically, and correct me if I'm wrong, that's why you're here. You're the expert. That really only encompasses the top, just for simple math, the top 10 women, generally speaking. Once you start getting further back from the top 10.
What is going on with these dogs?
I'm
sorry.
It's okay.
Yeah,
there's a random dude in my yard.
Uh-oh.
That's what's up. Sorry.
That's what happens out in Argyle.
Yeah.
What's that all about?
He's probably looking at the lines that are running through the trees.
Okay. We can edit that out, but we never do. But
you always say that.
So then this is where it gets complicated from my perspective as an organizer, is I can see where if I'm a 20th place woman, that's not quite, my skill set isn't there yet to be in that top 10.
You strike me as a 20th place woman.
Yeah. Just trapped in a man's body. A 50th place man's body in a race of 40. But doesn't it make sense for the further back women to be able to race with, regardless of gender, comparable ability, other racers to work on their skill set and build up to the, or am I
It's really
off base?
helpful.
Am
It's
I off base there?
I mean, there's a point there. I think it's really helpful. And that's why I think it's cool to have kind of the variety that gravel presents.
Right.
Because you can go do a race that has that. It's not, it's a women's separate start, but you can still benefit from the men starting a ways behind.
And I guess maybe that's what I'm asking. In the elite field, once you get outside of the top 10, do all of the women want the no drafting, or does the 25th place woman maybe want to have the ability not to get themselves into the top 10, but to start, build up their skills so maybe next year they can be top 10 or 2 years from now top 10?
I mean, I think if that's the case, there's opportunity for them to race with the men and work on their skills. If that's their point.
Okay.
Because
that's why you're here.
So I feel like there's a lot of opportunity to work on skills. All your races, it's a mass start. Great opportunity to work on skills. So I feel like that opportunity is there. Is
the women's talent pool there?
It's getting there. So that's the tricky part, right? It's like in the Lifetime Grand Prix, it's there. Mm-hmm. So why they don't implement it, I don't know. Okay. Because it's there.
And what is the Lifetime women's field? 30?
It's 30. And there's usually always more women that just sign up to do the race.
Sure.
In the pro field. So for sure, I think absolutely there's no reason why we couldn't have a no drafting rule.
Okay.
Yeah. And then like I said, opportunities in other races to work on skills, to still work with the men and not be out there for forever.
Sure.
Do you see the average pace of the women's fields going up in the Lifetime Grand Prix over the past 3 years since you've been involved?
Yeah. It's actually an interesting question. It's like the pace. Yeah, I guess I kind of base it more off of perceived exertion.
Sure.
So like the first year I did it, I got fifth overall.
Is Justin Carey your coach?
No. The first year I got fifth, and I felt like, it was hard, but I was also racing a full world tour schedule as well.
Yeah.
Then the next year I had a really bad crash, and so spent half the year trying to work my way back up. Mm-hmm. But what I found is as I'm like working my way back into fitness, the level in the Grand Prix and just all these high profile gravel races has just escalated. Yeah. And it's climbing. And so when I come back at the same power like I was pre-accident, it's not good enough anymore.
Right.
So that's been really tricky because finding ways to keep improving and to be able to be competitive in this field that is getting deeper and stronger every year. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So to answer your question, it is, the average pace, the average strength has definitely gone up.
Yeah. And I think to Kevin's point, I think if we left the drafting situation the way it is, it's going to continue to raise that bar a little bit. Like, I think that the women get stronger because what happens is, in a nutshell and just cut and dry and not accurate, but like if it's only the 25 and down, just for numbers, that are the true benefactors of the drafting in these races, then at some point the 25 and down are going to be the 15 and down, and so they're going to continue to push each other from the bottom up essentially, and then you're still going to have the top people, the top women getting faster. That's going to drag the whole field up. You know what I mean? And so it just seems in just a thought process, it seems like that the drafting could raise the whole pace of the entire group.
The no drafting rule?
No, if we leave it the way it is.
Well,
I don't know.
And
No.
and maybe at the tier 2. And
Yeah.
I follow what you're saying, that yes, at the Lifetime level, at the Grand Prix level, I think potentially a no drafting rule does make all the sense in the world. But I can also see where then maybe it becomes the expectation for all gravel events.
Okay. So you're
Yeah.
kind of speaking more of like your general.
Yeah.
I would say so, yeah. I mean, I feel like racing with the men in gravel events really helped me a lot.
Yeah.
With my speed and with
Yeah.
technique.
Yeah.
And if you have a field of 15 women, you're just absolutely not going to get that.
Right.
And you
yeah,
don't
because
get the
it's-
pace.
That's yeah. I think that's kind of
Yeah.
yeah. I think trying to. I think it makes all the sense in the world for the Grand Prix to be the goal. Mm-hmm. But how do you bridge to that goal? And that, from my and I'm not talking just for spinistry events. I'm talking from the perspective of any event organizer. You know, it's been. I've said for years that it's been a focus of mine to try to increase women's participation in these races, and I haven't been successful at it. And I mean, obviously, there's things I'm not doing right. I'll take the grief for that, but in turn, there's nothing that's telling me what are the right things to do at this point.
Maybe you should implement a no drafting rule.
And I think that's actually somewhat counterproductive along those lines, because I think the first goal to get women's racing more successful is to get more women racing somehow or another. And that's what I don't know. I don't think anyone knows what the secret formula is to that. Do you have top of mind thoughts with that?
Well, I think it's very interesting with gravel because there are no categories. So like in road, you work your way up, right?
Yeah.
So you get comfortable with this.
Cat 5.
Yeah.
Cat 4. Cat.
But you go, let's say you just decide, like, and there's more and more of this, gravel is your first discipline.
There's a lot of that now.
And then you just go into this race. You have no pack skills. You have no tactical skills.
Yeah.
I mean, you're scared to take your hands off your bars. And
Yeah.
that's what I was as a Cat 5. I didn't even want to drink because I was so scared to take my hand off.
We should pause and tell us how you started racing. How did you get in? How did this pro female start riding? Because Kevin's talking about getting more females into riding. How did you come into cycling? And how long have you been riding? I guess that's part of the question too.
Yeah, well, I started in, let's see. Sorry, I have to switch my mindset here.
No, I'm sorry.
No, you're good. 2013.
Okay.
I was running a lot. I had graduated with my master's in music and piano performance, and just really wanted something totally different with a different group of people because I had just got very burnt out. And so I started running, and that's how I met my husband, James. He owned the Fort Worth Running Company. And then from there, I went into cycling because, I mean, it's very
Running
typical.
is for thieves.
Yeah. And it also hurts.
Yes.
And you get injured.
Yeah.
And that was I got a lot of injuries in my feet.
Yeah.
So I went cycling with him, and he was like, hey, you're actually like really strong on the bike. And I didn't know it was, I didn't know women really did it, let alone like that you could actually make a living at it.
Right.
So, I got in it through him, and then took a year off to have my baby, and then
I need some shade. Thank you.
There you go.
Took a year off to have your baby.
yeah, and then got back into it in 2016, 2017 raced locally, and then went with Tibco in 2018.
Very cool. Okay.
Yeah.
That's a very fast progression.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Much like what's her face at the Olympics this year.
Kristen Faulkner.
Yeah.
Yeah. She's dynamite.
Yeah.
It was, and I felt like every single year was always like this massive.
Up ramp.
Yeah.
So
always hard.
you've actually touched on that's kind of the topic I've been talking with Brad about. It's the classic, how do we get more women racing bicycles? And it's the classic discussion is more along the lines of get them riding bikes in grade school and NICA. And I don't disagree with that. But it seems like the growth in cycling is actually coming from outside cycling.
Yeah, because a lot of people that ride from a very early age, like Nika, those people get burnt out. Mm-hmm. You know, I mean, think about.
I think strong athletes are strong athletes.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Like Kristen.
Yeah.
She
Like
came
Kristen.
from rowing.
Yeah.
Yes.
And we have people coming from soccer or
Yeah.
from like cross-country
Cross-country,
ski or
yeah.
Country
skimo.
skiing,
Yeah.
Triathlon and then
I think that's the place to look because it's something you can do. Like a lot of these sports, there's like a time limit on it, or
Yeah.
it's harder to like cross-country ski. Let's say you live in Texas.
Yeah.
You know, you moved, you relocated. This biking you can do pretty much anywhere.
Yeah.
You know, and it's
And you can do it pretty much year round in Texas.
in Texas.
for sure.
You know?
Yeah.
And I guess so. Yeah, I think that's maybe the tail as that I've been chasing as a promoter is how do you get more women cyclists racing, where maybe that's not the approach to take, because the women cyclists that don't race because they don't want to be racers. They want to ride their bikes.
Yeah.
Whereas maybe it makes more sense just to find competitive women and say, hey, check out bike racing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's actually a great idea. I mean, I know of it because there's teams who do it.
Yeah.
But I didn't think about it more in like a more local way.
Yeah.
But I'm sure there's so many women. I mean, we have a huge metroplex.
Yeah.
Who used to be super competitive
Right.
in college and now they don't. And
Yeah.
Well, and I think that's kind of what the Grand Prix has been doing is it's showing competitive people, not just women, because it's happening on the men's side as well. But obviously, there's just so much more established, for lack of a better term, talent on. There's so many highly competitive male cyclists right now that it's gonna be harder for those outside the sport to make those inroads, whereas because there is room for more competitive ladies, the other sports that have women that like to compete, I think the Grand Prix has opened their eyes to the bicycle as an option. And I'll be honest with you, the ramp up you're talking about, what, 5 years, 6 years?
for me,
Yeah.
I guess it's 6 years now.
Yeah,
It feels like
because
decades.
2022 was your first year as a Lifetime Grand Prix athlete, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so...
Well, but I'm talking about from when you got on the bike to when you started racing professionally or at highest levels. How long was that? That was 5 years, was it 2013?
Yeah, about 5 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's ahead of the curve for most people. So that was aggressive then, but it's actually kind of somewhat becoming more of a norm in the gravel levels. And you have women that are cross-country skiers that are now front of the field
Yeah.
in 3 years, right?
Yeah. Sometimes less.
And when the women first started racing, it was like, oh, well, it's going to take her 10 years to get there where she knows how to ride in the... No, not really. Are the outsiders as strong as the people that have been racing bicycles for 20 years? Well, maybe there's a few little nuances here and there, but you're notorious for being bullheaded and strong, and like I said, bridging when traditionally that's not the move. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it works, right?
Mhm, sometimes it does. Most of the time it has for me, but sometimes it doesn't.
Sometimes it doesn't, but that's one of the things that's really cool about gravel right now is the non-traditional tactics that's sometimes they do work. Or am I seeing that incorrectly from an outsider's perspective?
No, I think gravel's kind of still finding its feet as far as tactics go.
Yeah.
Because
road tactics don't directly transfer.
Not to the same degree.
Right.
They still do, but you just don't, there's not as many like teams.
Right.
But there are some. I mean, Keegan works with his guy.
Yeah.
And then, so there's kind of like pairs, I feel like.
I'm going to have to ask you for Gravel World's play-by-play here, because
Oh, yeah.
the three of y'all, that was amazing, and the coverage of that was just simply tremendous.
Yeah, that was amazing. They just set a super high bar. It was awesome.
They blew it out of the water, quite frankly, and okay. So help me out. I'm an idiot. Okay. You were EF, now you're POS?
Yeah, Parnamal.
What is POS? I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, you're fine. So it's a clothing company based out of Copenhagen, and they also have so it's called Paranormal Studios, which means not normal studios.
I like
it's
that.
French.
I like that.
Yeah, and then they also go by the International Cycling Club, and they do have a very international presence, like especially like in APAC and Europe, really, really big there. And then now they're definitely infiltrating the States to a big degree. And they're just really wonderful people. Like,
So
I love them.
Is this a truly structured team, or is this a gathering of privateers?
No, it's a mixture, actually. It's very interesting. They did a good job of figuring out how to make a team work in gravel.
Okay.
So we're all connected in that we have the same clothing sponsor, and they also help us with logistics. They do like a team camp every year. They provide helmet, sunglasses, and so I think those are the things we have to have is like the helmet, sunglasses, clothing.
So they make cycling clothes. Dumb question.
Yes.
Okay.
That's what they do. They make apparel.
Okay.
Yeah. And so then everything else is more like a privateer standpoint. So we each have our own bike brands, our own wheel brands,
Interesting.
Oh,
Yeah.
that is interesting.
but we're just connected by that.
So who
those
is your
couple
bike
things. Ventum.
Ventum. Mm-hmm. I'm not familiar with them.
Yeah, they're based out of Utah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And they do gravel and mountain bike both?
No, gravel and road.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
So who's your mountain bike?
I'm on an Ibis.
Can't argue with that.
Yeah, it's good.
So
I feel like a
Ventum-
grandma driving it.
So Ventum is their carbon?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Yeah, they're great. I love it.
I'll have to look them up. I wish I had my computer right here. It's VENTOM.
TUM.
TUM. I'm sorry. That's not a brand. There's so much cycling stuff.
That's fine.
It's crazy.
Episode 70 something
Yeah.
brought to you by Ventum,
So-
POS, and
So SRAM or Shimano? That's my other
Shimano.
question. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I won't hold it against you.
Well, I mean, I've done both.
I'm a SRAM boy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think they both have their good things about them. And
Yeah.
yeah.
That's
if
fair.
you can get group sets,
Yeah.
you're doing great.
Yeah.
So
and I'm not. If there are things you can't specifically talk about, I'm not trying to pry. But do you know what next year looks like for your associations yet?
most of them.
Okay.
Yeah, so most of them will be for sure staying the same. Like I'll be with Pottermal again.
Yeah.
Hunt Wheels, Ventum Bikes, and then like Untapped Maple.
Yeah.
So most of it will stay the same. And actually also Texas Parks and Wildlife Foundation.
That's
Cool.
cool.
Yeah.
That is super cool.
I don't know if you've seen my helmet.
Nuh-uh.
It's got like the picture of the bird on it. It's
Oh.
it's all painted. It's really cool, and it's based off of their 100th
Yeah.
How
or
many-
their album celebrating their 100th year.
How many grams is that in paint, though?
I don't think about that part.
I wonder what it-
I look good in it, so
I
it
wonder
makes
what
me
it does
happy.
in the wind
important
tunnel,
thing.
though.
That's the important.
I wonder what your gains
You're
are.
still on a
Negative
Dylan
point-
hangover, aren't
Yeah.
you?
I lose like 1 watt, but I look good, so I gain like 5.
There you go.
There you go. It's like
Style
racing
points.
stripes. It's like
Yes.
racing stripes, yeah.
But I only race in it,
So-
so I feel like like pulling on your racing flats.
So how does that? Because from a guy that knows nothing about that entire network of professional cycling and transferring from one team to another, can you talk about how you transitioned from EF to POM? Is it POM?
PAW, PAS. But you
PAS.
just say PAW.
PA.
Paw.
Uh-huh.
Paw.
So was
Like grandpa.
yeah, okay. So not to be shitty or anything, but did you get dropped from EF and then have to find a home, or did Pa come and recruit you away from EF, or how does that work?
Yeah, it's a great question.
Yeah.
And I think it's not something people are very open about. And
if you don't want to talk about
I
it,
want
obviously.
to
Okay.
because I have a problem with that.
Oh, okay.
When I first got into cycling, nobody could tell me, what do you make? And what's what can you end up at?
Right.
And so you're just diving into this abyss and you
Right.
have no idea if it's sustainable.
Right.
So for sure, I'm happy to talk about it. So in 2012, 22 was my last year with EF. And I had decided I wanted to go do gravel. And so I talked to them about doing a privateer program like what Lachlan does.
Yeah. How sweet is he, by the way?
He's so nice.
He seems like such a sweetheart.
He is super quirky,
Yeah.
which I think is awesome.
I'm about it, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
But, I mean, to your question, I was not offered another World Tour contract.
Okay.
Which was like a gut punch.
Yeah,
because
I can imagine. Yeah.
I had raced my brains out for the team, and I was 100% sure I was extremely valuable.
Yeah.
I raced more days than people who had 2 contracts.
Yeah.
I got way more TV coverage than pretty much anybody.
Yeah.
Because like the Tour de France, I was off the front.
Yeah.
So it was hard.
Yeah.
Like it was really hard. And since then, Linda and I have actually resolved things. Like we left on good terms. Like I didn't hold it against her. Jackson.
And she is
So she's the owner, the founder.
of EF.
Was, yes. And so that got resolved, and I, worked through the self-worth issues that brought up. But I really wanted to do gravel, and there was actually a local team, Roxo, based out of Fort Worth, and I decided to go with them because they were going to allow me to do my gravel program as long as I did a little bit of road. So I won't go too much into it, except for it really didn't work out.
Right.
They actually really wanted me more on the road, and I was really unhappy because I wanted to race gravel.
So they kind of misrepresented their expectations.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
They had hoped that I would be more
road
centric, even though I was very clear that I didn't want that.
Yeah.
And maybe I should have been more careful and been like, okay, that's not a good idea for me to try to split between road and gravel. I've done that. It's hard to do.
Yeah.
So it's a mixture. Wasn't a good choice for me or them.
Yeah.
So then I worked on becoming fully privateer. And for that, I talked to some people to understand what to do, like Alan Lim with Scratch. I talked to him for quite some time just to figure out, like, how do you even go about becoming a privateer?
It seems like being an indie movie producer. Like, you just have to raise your own funds and get your own backing and stuff.
Yeah, it's really crazy. Yeah. But so basically, I just reached out to brands that I had connected to over the years. I think everybody that I work with, I had some sort of personal connection with. And that was really important to me, to work with people that I was connected to and I would feel
and brands you
proud.
Believe in.
Yeah, to represent them. Exactly. And so that part has been amazing because on a team, we were never allowed to directly reach out to a sponsor.
Yeah.
Which would make sense because if you had a full team doing that, it's chaos.
Yeah.
But now I get to actually talk directly with my sponsors. Which at first I was like, whoa, this is so crazy because I'm so used to not doing that. But, get equipment from them when I need and just send an email, see them at races.
Yeah.
So that's really cool. I love it.
Instead of having one umbrella that's your support, now you have multi-facets that are support on multiple levels. That's got to be a lot. It's got to feel a lot more supportive.
Yes.
To some extent.
Yeah, for sure. I would say as far as just like the person support, the equipment support, yes. It's been a little harder for me financially. And I think that's partially because I had a couple tough years. Yeah. And so, I mean, it is about the results as far as financial backing goes. Yeah. So what I've done to alleviate that, because I feel like it's hard not to ever be in that position, when you're a performance-based athlete. Right. To where, I mean, you're going to have a year or a half year where things don't go very well at some point. So my solution to that was to create income from other sources. So my husband and I started a coaching business, and we love it. It's super fun, and it's growing, and that alleviates a lot of the pressure because I don't perform well. If I'm like, okay, if I win this race, I win 10,000 and I get this bonus, and my gosh, could we use that? Right. Like, it's a kind of pressure. I don't know who performs well under that. I don't.
Yeah, a lot of people. Most people do not.
Most people don't.
It takes a certain amount of psychotic.
But some people, that's that's exactly what they
Yeah.
need. But yeah,
Okay, yeah, not me.
there's very,
Yeah.
very few people that it works for.
And I've worked with therapists and psychologists and like the mental part of how do you separate your results from your financial worth and how do you separate it from your self-worth?
Your self-worth.
Yeah.
It's hard.
Yeah.
I
Well,
think
we're
it's
here
an
to tell
ongoing.
you you're beautiful, you're awesome, and you're good enough. Okay.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
I heard this really good phrase yesterday from Kevin Smith, the director.
Yeah.
I was listening to an interview with him, and he said, "The past is where depression dwells, and the future is where anxiety dwells." And he goes, "So the only place to be is the present."
The
That's
now.
good.
Yeah. And he said, "But if you're the author for the future, and all you think about is negativity, then why not flip the script? If you're going to anticipate all these bad things, why not anticipate all the good things? Be the author of the good story."
Yeah.
And I was like, that little nugget, that little nutshell was so good.
It is so good.
It bears repeating. So,
That's actually
And you just did.
yeah.
that's
so-
good to hear.
Yeah.
Yeah. 'Cause-
So you don't have to build anxiety. You can actually
Right.
build something that's compelling, you know?
and like you said, why wouldn't you?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because our thoughts affect our actions
Absolutely.
and affect what
yeah.
comes.
And you hear world-class athletes like yourself that envision the win. You know, when you hear, especially, I always attribute it to Olympians, but they always ask them, like, what was on your mind right before you did whatever the event was? And they're like, just saw myself finishing in first, or I saw myself out competing, or whatever, you know, the thought is.
Yeah.
And it's that envision that
Yeah.
they're writing the script, you know. It's
Yeah.
pretty interesting. So, nutrition. I wanted to ask you about nutrition, too. Are you on the carbs per hour program that it seems like all the elite athletes are doing?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do.
And so are you using, I heard you talk about Scratch. Are you with Scratch?
No, I just
Okay.
I talked to him because I had known him.
Yeah.
I use Untapped.
Untapped. Okay.
Yeah, so it's maple syrup.
Yeah. So, but that's just like a gel though, right?
They have gels, waffles, and drink mixes.
Oh, they do have a drink mix.
Yeah.
I did not know that. Okay. So, and you're mixing your bottles across your bottles, or I'm trying not to lead the witness here too much, but
Okay, you're going off on a 6-hour race.
Yeah.
What is your nutrition set up hour by hour?
So I've gotten to where I really like drinking a pretty good amount of my calories, as long as it's got a good balance.
I'm sorry.
See, he likes it.
Yeah.
As long as it has a good balance of sodium.
Right.
So, like, I'll do, which Untapped has 2 in particular that work really well for me.
Uh-huh.
So I'll put in between 240 and 300 calories in a liter bottle.
Uh-huh.
Because I find if it's too dense, then I just don't get enough liquid.
Yeah.
So, and then I'll take in.
So what is the concentrate that you're putting in?
So that's going to be they have grape maple aid.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not grape like, people think like cough syrup.
Yeah.
Or like.
Or grape Kool-Aid.
Fake grape.
Yeah.
It's like the fresh pressed grape juice, which we used to press our own grapes when I was growing up. And so it's like that really rich, deep purple, like kind of musky flavor. It's so good. And then they add sea salt.
Why do I have smoke on the water in the back of my head? never mind. Keep going.
So what does this come out to if it's you said 240
To 300
So that's
calories.
to 300 calories, so it's about half of that in
that's
carbs, right?
So
No.
60 to 80, right?
Yeah. And then I eat with that.
Okay.
So I end up I like to hit like 100, 120 grams of carbs per hour.
Yeah.
So it's high, but I can do it if I have like the balance of liquid
Yeah.
correct.
Yes.
If I with Untapped, I'm good with that. There
Yeah.
has been like if you take a really highly concentrated drink mix where it's like a high carb,
Yeah.
it can be really tricky to make sure you're getting the right balance of sodium and liquid, because the high carbs, it pulls water from your body to digest it, so you can end up actually like cramping.
Yeah, locking up. Yeah.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
you just don't have enough liquid in your body.
Vapor lock like an old Buick.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was just curious. It seems like every pro is on that mission right now, where it seems like 100 carbs or 100 grams of carbs per hour is like the floor at this point.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Which is not something anybody was even discussing, at least in my circles, 2-3 years ago, maybe 4 years ago.
Yeah, it really has escalated.
It came. I'm not saying it came out of nowhere, but it hit critical mass and saturation, for lack of a better term.
Yeah.
Everyone's doing it, right?
Yeah.
And I think it's because we have these super long races.
Yeah.
So if you don't, there's no room for error.
Yeah.
You go do a 3 to 4 hour road race. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you still need a fuel, but it's not nearly
There's
as critical.
More margin for error.
Exactly. Yeah. Whereas if you go do Unbound and you're not taking in enough, it's just not going to end very well.
Have you been working with a nutritionist to dial that in, or is it your own find out what works and doesn't work along the way process?
It's mainly been me figuring it out. Yeah. And I have. And I talk to different people. I think it'd be cool to work with a nutritionist. It's just not something I've done.
Understood. Now, you'd mentioned your coaching program with your husband, James. Mm-hmm. Well, give yourself a plug. What's the name of your coaching?
Newsom Coaching.
Newsom Coaching?
Newsom.
Newsom.
Name.
Newsom.
Yeah.
Okay.
I picked it because you want to remember it. So
There you go. Makes all the sense in the world. And website?
Yeah.
Facebook page? What's the best way for people?
NewsomCoaching.com.
Okay.
Yep. Easy to remember. It has a place you can contact us. I put up my blogs there. James has done an article. Yeah.
Is there anything that y'all specialize in, or do you have an ideal client that's doing a certain type of sport or discipline or anything like that? Or is it, hey, if whatever help you need, send me a message and let's talk about it? What's your basic format?
Yeah, I would say we encompass a pretty wide variety, and I like that because a big goal for me with coaching was I really wanted to be accessible, not only financially, but also that I don't want it to be intimidating. So if someone's just learning how to ride and they want to coach, cool. We'll work with you and we'll help you get started and help you learn the skills. If you are someone who is coming back into it and wants to regain their fitness, whatever situation someone's in, we want to be able to meet those needs.
Do I have to have a watt meter on my bike in order to get coaching from you?
You can do heart rate.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, we work with heart rate.
I was just curious. It seems like everybody's doing everything by watts nowadays.
Yeah.
It's
and
all
I think
watt based.
There's still room though to do heart rate, and I think it's freeing in a lot of ways to not be always staring at a power meter.
Yeah. So are you on the 80-20 kick, the zone 2 heavy training? Is that in your circle as well?
So as far as my training goes, it depends on the season.
Yeah.
So right now it's zone 2 and then intensity. And it's also about managing fitness between events.
Yeah. I was going to say that's got to be tough to build fitness, to get at quote unquote peak level and then stay peaked for, what is the Lifetime Grand Prix series run, 10 weeks?
It's from April until the end of October.
Oh shit! So,
yeah,
way
and
longer.
Basically,
so it's
an
tricky.
event every 2 or 3 weeks, roughly speaking.
Every month, I would say, pretty much. It was April and then nothing until June.
Okay.
But then it's every month.
Then it's
July, August, September, October. Yeah.
That's got to be very difficult to stay on form for that long.
It is, especially if you add in other races, which we all do.
Everybody's got more race. Well, Gravel Worlds.
Yeah.
Was right in the middle of SPT. Was right in the middle of.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Did you do SPT as well?
I did.
Okay.
It kicked my fanny.
Yeah. So, what's been your favorite event this year?
I mean, it's hard not to really like the ones you do well at.
True.
But
I mean, I guess that does add to the enjoyment factor, obviously, or just if you just feel good while you're doing it.
Yeah.
But I mean, as far as the course and the area and the beauty and that kind of
the
stuff.
vibe or whatever else.
I would say for beauty, I would go Santival in Spain.
Yeah.
It was in the Girona area.
Yeah.
I've never done a gravel race in Spain, and
Now you're just showing off.
No, it was so cool.
Yeah, I can only imagine.
It was a 3-day stage race, which
Yeah.
again, I've never done a gravel stage race.
Yeah, that's cool.
It was super cool, and I think what I loved about it, it was beautiful, but like it was a very chill vibe, like super fun. And the team really emphasized to us that they were not worried about results at all. So
really?
we had zero pressure, but we did great.
Yeah.
So of course that was fun.
Did it seem like it was easier to do really well because there was no pressure?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
I think so. I've been on teams where an immense amount of pressure was put on in a way that they were trying to make us feel good.
Yeah.
Like, oh, y'all can just ride away from the field.
Yeah.
You know, well, you go into the race already having lost
Yeah.
because no, we're not going to ride away from the field.
Right.
So that's really hard to race under. But yeah, if your sponsor's telling you, hey, like, represent well, be a cool person, go out, have a good time, race hard,
Yeah.
then you're going to do great.
Yeah.
There's no losing.
So did you eat a lot of badass food when you were in Spain too?
Yeah, it's good food.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. We had a team house, and then they had a chef there, and one meal he made was like just huge piles of green peas with like pieces of ham in it.
Yeah.
And it was so funny because all of us were like, wow, it's interesting race food.
Yeah.
Like,
What's the macros on this?
yeah, I liked it.
Yeah.
I thought it was good.
Huh. So do you have back to food? Do you have
Brad's a chef. If
Yeah.
you didn't
Oh,
know.
really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's so cool.
it is what it is, but do you have like a set nutritional plan that you go off of, and really more so the question is, do you have your favorite pre-race meal?
Yeah, I really like rice and eggs.
Yeah.
And honey on
Yeah.
it, which grosses some people out because I
No,
put the
that's
eggs on the
awesome.
rice.
That's awesome.
Right?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
so good.
Yeah.
That's my go-to.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
talk about macros.
Yeah, because I know another guy that eats ramen before big races.
Oh,
So-
okay.
So I get that. So yeah, rice and eggs is beautiful carbs and protein.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Yep.
then you got your sugars, and obviously there's some salt in there.
Yeah, for sure.
Somewhere. Yeah.
Yeah, lots
Okay.
of salt.
So what is your favorite meal? Not pre-race, but like
Just meal in general.
yeah. Like if I said, hey, we're going to dinner tonight, I'm buying. Where are you going? What are you going for?
Okay, so I guess it also depends where. Like,
Doesn't matter.
okay. I mean, I love steak.
Yeah.
I have like a filet mignon that's been like just awesomely cooked, and a salad and like some sourdough bread.
Yeah.
So like not crazy tricked up.
Yeah.
But like really good
Yeah.
ingredients.
I'm with you.
Like
I'm
quality food.
I'm 100% with you.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
love that.
This guy's got an awesome sourdough.
yeah?
I assume your starter's still doing its thing.
Oh yeah.
My daughter started my bread at home.
Yeah.
I'm gonna make it when I get back.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got to put a loaf on tonight. I've got my catering gig starts tomorrow for the entire weekend. So
Oh wow.
yeah, I go and do
Is that
retreats.
Is that
Yeah,
Forestburg?
I can go and do retreats for yoga, and I cook every meal for
Oh, wow.
everybody. So
That's so cool.
it's fun. It's a lot of fun. So I'm trying to figure out how to squeeze in a ride this weekend from there. So that's one of the things I was going to ask you about. Is I need a.
I can get you routes.
Is there a route
I
out
can
there?
get you routes. Let me know how many mile.
I just need an hour or two. I just want to go
give
ride.
I'll give you a couple options.
Okay.
Actually, we need to take this question to that level that you started with Dylan.
Yeah.
What's your favorite sandwich?
Oh yeah.
Oh. I just really like a tricked up sandwich
Mm-hmm.
or super simple. So either I like just like bread with meat and cheese
Mm-hmm.
and butter,
Sure.
or I like something that has like sprouts and veggies and it's got like hummus on it and mustard and maybe like a tomato pesto and some really good meat and cheese.
I'm with
Yeah.
you.
But not in between.
Yeah. No, I get it, and that sounds pretty good. Because I know a guy that makes a bitchin' tomato pesto. So you're
nice.
gonna have to make me that sandwich that
Okay.
she just described.
I'm with it.
We'll have Emily over.
Yeah,
for
I got
that.
home last night. Speaking of sandwiches, I got home last night, and on Tuesday I'm never here because of TNSS, and so it's become a household. like tradition because we don't order pizza at my house. I say that like when I'm here, we don't order pizza. So I don't know, 8 years ago, maybe longer, the boys and mom started this tradition where they order Domino's on Tuesday because I'm not here. And so I got home and I'm like, I told my wife, I said, I'm going to make a sandwich. And she goes, why don't you just have some pizza? I said, because I want a freaking sandwich. And so I toasted some capicola and I put some cherry pepper spread on it, some mayonnaise and shredded some lettuce and capicola and mortadella with pistachios. And
my gosh.
And I was like, I was like, this is why I didn't want a fucking piece of pizza, because this is delicious.
Why I didn't want Domino's.
Yeah, and it hit the spot. So.
That sounds awesome.
Yeah, it was so good. So, I had other questions for you too.
Oh, we got time. We got time.
Yeah. I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought. I'm thinking about my sandwich.
We were talking about your favorite rides or where you like. Let's simplify. What is for the 2024 season so far? What's your favorite event that you've done so far this year? And I am going to ask the other side of this too, so be ready for that.
Okay. Let's see. I mean, Gravel Worlds was pretty sweet. Like the vibe.
That was really cool.
And the people were so cool.
Yeah.
And
that's just a chill area too.
Yeah.
You know?
And the race, it's very straight, like all 90-degree turns. Yeah. But I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
And it was challenging, and I did well, and I really loved that I took a chance with the bridge, and it worked.
And it worked.
Yeah. And because it wasn't planned at all. So that was probably a highlight.
So you guys really duked it out for the last 25, 30 miles, something like that?
Yeah, for sure the last 10.
And so it was two Paul riders and Lauren. And I mean, it was a clinic what y'all did, because you guys did everything right.
We just couldn't shake her.
Lauren ended up with the win, but you guys attacked her just right and staggered.
It was textbook. It was so textbook.
It was so awesome to watch.
Oh, that's cool.
And
I'm glad to hear that.
As you're doing it, does it feel like we're doing it the right way, or as you're doing it, you're going, what else can I, or is it just we have a plan, or we know how to do instinctually? How does that look?
It's all nonverbal communication, right? I mean, because you can't voice tactics when you have an opposition.
Yeah, how does that work? How do you know what to do when?
We did, so Carolina and I did talk. I felt like Caro was actually as strong as Lauren on the day, but she worked way harder. And that's not a discredit
that's tactic number one.
Yeah.
Exactly. So Lauren was really smart, and she was very careful with her pulls. I was too, more so because I was just really hurting.
Yeah.
And Caro would take by far the longest pulls, and I was like, Caro, you got to stop doing that.
Yeah.
And so at one point I talked to her. I was like, hey, I think you can win. Just don't work so hard.
Right.
And she I could tell she didn't really think she could. But I was trying to, help her believe in herself. And so I was like, we should 1-2 her. There's two of us. Like, we have to try. We can't just, ride with her to the finish. And she's a good sprinter. And neither one of us are great sprinters, me or Carolina. So that's how it started with the 1-2ing her. I did try at 1.2 just, kind of sitting up and letting Caro go. Yeah. And Lauren was on my wheel. And then it didn't really work. And Caro actually didn't even know I was doing it. And then we 1-2'd her, and in the moment it felt like, it's not like we thought, okay, this is the move. You just kind of try things, and if it works, then you're like, sweet, it worked. So when I'm going by them, I'm hoping maybe Lauren hesitates, and I can get a gap and I can hold it.
Right.
Or maybe Caro can counter it and she's going to get away. So I'm hoping for that.
Yeah.
But it's hard to say until it plays out, and for us, it didn't play out with us winning.
Well, Lauren's just so damn strong.
She's very strong, but she didn't win by that much though.
No.
20 seconds. So
she's also
close.
super smart.
Yes,
super smart.
Yes, she's very savvy.
She's crazy smart, and
like the Terminator.
I'm not gonna say she did everything perfectly on her end. You guys were this close to doing everything perfectly. It was like, I think it was almost a coin toss, quite frankly. I think it was that close where one of y'all's moves would have done it.
Yeah.
But
I think so too. And I think Kara could have. I mean, it's a credit to her for how strong she was, working as hard as she did, and still coming in second, 20 seconds behind.
I'll be honest with you. The two best bicycle races I've seen in years were both women's races. It was y'all's race. That was so cool. It was so cool, particularly on gravel, and knowing the women involved, that part was cool as well. But also the Kristen Faulkner race at the Olympics, it was just simply amazing.
Yeah,
that was cool.
And I really think y'all's finish was in that same realm, and I think that's what has me so excited about women's competitive cycling going forward. It feels like we're almost right there, and as a promoter, as an organizer, I'd like to contribute, but I don't know what to do.
I think what you do is amazing. Like, you have events and opportunities, and I mean, that's how I cut my teeth.
I'll be honest with you. I feel like I've been dropping the ball on the women's racing for years. I'm not ignoring it. It's like trying to do stuff and nothing seems to be the magic thing to be. This is what takes it over the top. And all I can do is keep trying, though. And
maybe a gravel camp, women.
You've
done that.
So here's what. To be honest with you, it's finding the right people to team up with on that. Once it starts going to that level, in my mind, it needs to be women that are. I'm happy to contribute and help, sort of thing.
But it needs to be headed by a female.
That makes sense.
And preferably more than one. Quite frankly,
yeah.
A committee.
Well, maybe me and Lauren can come up with something.
I would love that.
That would be cool.
That would be awesome.
I would absolutely love that.
I think she would too. I think it'd be super cool.
So, like I said, I am gonna flip that around, and I'm not. And it could be for any reason. It could be your performance. It could just be the weather. It could be the course itself. It could be
the shitty people.
Yeah. What's been your least favorite event this year? And if you want to say why, that's perfectly fine. But if you're not comfortable with that, that's fine as well.
Definitely biggest disappointment was Nationals. So that was 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And that is, for me, that's exactly the opposite of Gravel Worlds. Yes, I can look at the results. I have no sense of what actually happened there as a spectator, for lack of a better term. There doesn't, and it's not because Gravel Worlds and Lifetime have set the bar high with their coverage. It's there hasn't been any news or clips or
it's like, on the race. I know there was not any feed or anything.
I don't know how any of it looked.
It was like a vortex.
So, all right. So, okay, very disappointing. Tell me why, because I don't know anything about the details of that race.
You said if she wants to tell you why, she could. Now you're saying, tell me why.
Well, it seemed like she was about to. So.
Yeah, I made some mistakes with my preparation for it. That, like, with nutrition.
Not enough honey on your eggs.
And, with how I ate in the morning, definitely.
Yeah.
And then also a little bit with my equipment, and then somewhat with my tactics too. And so, like, I didn't sleep very well. So it's kind of this perfect storm where this race that was, like, to me, like, one of the most important on my calendar, somehow I managed to do a whole bunch of things wrong, which maybe was because I was, like, wanting to do so well. And somehow it, like, reversed on me. I don't know.
For the listeners, what was the format of Nationals?
Well, for me, what was the format? Is it a
mass start?
Is it an elite race? Is it a
It's a women's only elite race.
Elite race.
So small
but they also have age categories as well.
But no drafting. Yes. Yeah. Age categories as well.
And so how many women lined up in your race?
18.
Okay.
I think.
So that makes it difficult too, because...
And how many, is it 3 spots that qualify for Worlds or
I think so. I think top 3.
top 3 qualified
Yeah.
for Worlds?
Yeah.
And what was the distance and location?
130 miles, and it was in Gearing, Nebraska.
Uh-huh.
So not a lot of climbing, but like they had some sand pits.
It's rollers in Nebraska.
A few. Yeah, not as much as Gravel Worlds though.
Oh, okay.
So there was like maybe 3 significant climbs that were all less than 3 minutes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And then they had sand pits and a minimal maintenance road.
Oh, well, yeah.
So, and that's like for me, I went to the front on the minimum maintenance. I love sand and I'm good in it and I knew it. And so that's where I had flatted last year. So I was
Wait,
just.
I'm going to pause you there.
Yeah.
Have you ever heard anyone say they love sand and they're good in it before?
Not necessarily.
See, it's the other way. I'm good in sand and so I love it.
There you go.
That's the way it goes.
So what tires were you running? Just
The Zeros in a 47 Vittoria Terreno Zeros.
Yeah.
So it was a good tire.
Yeah.
It was like tough enough because there's a lot of goat heads out there, so you wanted something pretty tough. But it's like a slick pretty much.
yeah, it looks like a snake skin almost, right?
Yeah. And I raced really well the first 4 hours. So I split the field in the double track, and then I attacked. I rolled off the front because nobody was working, and then I just kept
You
going.
rolled off the front because you're Emily. I know that.
And it wasn't a great move though, except for that it worked.
Yeah.
So I went off the front, and then Lauren and Alexis bridged me.
Yeah.
So it was the 3 of us, and Lauren and Alexis were going so hard that at some point I just couldn't sustain it, and so
Yeah.
I fell back to 4th and 5th place with the other 2 ladies chasing. Also a great place to be because they were going to catch them back. But then I had a double cramp in my hamstrings. And then I was just on empty.
So that was
that
attributed to
was
sodium?
a nutrition or
Yeah. So if you can cut out this part, I can tell you.
okay. Super secret inside information.
slight break over. At what point in the race did the hamstring cramping kick in?
I could feel it probably from like hour 2.5.
Yeah.
The twinges.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my gosh, I know what that means because I've had it maybe 3 times in my life.
Yeah.
And then right before we caught Lauren and Alexis, when I had fallen back to Paige and the other Lauren,
Yeah.
Bring your
both-
mic back up a little bit.
both of them both hamstrings just.
Yeah.
And I couldn't pedal for, I don't know, 5 minutes at least. I was just rolling down, thankfully, on a slight downhill. I think they gained 5 minutes on me within like 10 miles.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it became insurmountable, even if you could have recovered on the fly. Yeah.
And I tried to recover, and I couldn't. I could barely push 120 watts. Like,
Yeah.
I was like crawling,
Yeah.
just getting past. And so I DNF'd, which was really hard.
Yeah.
And it's really hard even like now because
So what mile
I
was
hate
that?
that.
Ish.
80.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you still had a ways to go and you were empty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
50 miles to go still.
Yeah.
I know. I was like, I honestly don't know if it's physically possible.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, that's tough.
but I learned a lot.
Yeah.
Which it sucks to learn a lot in a race that you really are targeting.
Sure.
Right.
But
Sure.
hey, it happens.
Yeah.
Understood.
Yeah.
But safe to say some valuable lessons learned?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. Valuable lessons reinforced.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. So what's next on your calendar for big events?
The rad is, well, this weekend.
That's not a big event.
It's
but
going to be fun, though. I'm excited. And one of our clients is coming, too.
I was very excited to see you sign up.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. And then,
Wait, what's going on this weekend? I'm
Texas Gravel Champs at
Oh, yeah.
Lake Whitney.
yeah, very cool.
Yeah.
I forgot.
and then the rad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw McAfee calling out Justin Carey on that.
Oh, that brings it up
Like Justin Carey's out doing 300 miles right now.
right now.
Yeah. warming up for gravel
Warming up
champs.
for Texas
my
Gravel
gosh.
Champs. Going back to that, I keep harping on it, but it was so cool, that Gravel Worlds coverage. There was a segment that was on the live feed when they were following the 3 of y'all out front of the ladies, where you guys picked up, you passed a 300 a long voyage rider, and he tacked on the Lawrence wheel and rode with y'all for a little bit. Do you recall that by chance?
No.
He was in a McKinney Velo kit.
Yeah.
And he's been on our podcast a couple times as Justin Carey. So it was very cool.
Funny.
It was Emily, Lauren, and there's Justin riding right with them as well. So that was
Oh my goodness! I don't know how I missed that.
The unconventional Justin
the
Carey.
unconventional Justin Carey.
See-
Actually, I think you were in the lead at that point,
Yeah.
and you were just pegging it. So
Okay.
Lauren was just.
So he was the benefactor of the drafting.
Yes, he was.
In this case.
Yes, yeah. Justin's going to go.
Nice.
No, keep the drafting for everybody. Let's have the drafting.
Yeah.
Anyway. All right. So the rad's coming up. Mm-hmm. And then
That's a straight 100, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
it's 100, is it? Okay.
But it's climby.
Yeah, at altitude.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's okay. I love altitude. I don't.
There you
but
go.
It's okay.
Oh, you
I do.
do.
I do.
You do.
I do.
You
love
perform
it.
really well at
But
altitude.
I do.
See?
Because
Be
you
the
do
author
so
of
much
your
That's
future.
right.
you do so much training in Texas. It's almost the same as altitude.
That's today. I was riding before I came here. I was like,
See.
yes, this is how I'm gonna
That's what I
do
tell-
well at the rad.
Yeah.
You do that Texas heat, and it just zaps your soul the same way. So.
Yeah.
It's true. Yeah, it's true.
That and the wind are just Texas hills.
That's it.
You know?
That's it. All right. So then, Big Sugar, I assume, is on your calendar as well.
So that's something I'm really looking forward to that one. I like that course. It's at sea level, which is great. It suits me. I'm pretty excited for it. Yep.
Very cool.
And what I assume that you're shooting for Grand Prix participation next year as well? Or-
No,
Oh, you're not?
I won't. No, because in my opinion, the Grand Prix suits, and there's some people who really challenge this conception that I'm presenting. It really suits a mountain biker and or someone who lives at altitude, because three of the 7 are mountain bike, and 4 of the 7 are at altitude.
Yeah.
So, if you do not live at altitude and you're not a mountain biker, it's very difficult. There are women who do really well who don't have a mountain bike background and don't live at altitude. I just find, I have a family, you know, so I can't go head to altitude whenever I want to.
You can't go to the mountain for a couple months at a time.
Yeah.
Why don't you just sleep in a chamber?
I've tried it. It didn't
Have
really
you?
work very well for me. I just
Yeah.
didn't sleep well, and so I wasn't recovering.
Yeah.
It didn't work well.
I was actually almost kidding, but
Okay, I tried
But
it.
Yeah.
but I'm sure somebody listening's going, well, why don't you do
yeah,
a chamber?
it's an awfully big commitment, and from what I understand, the carryovers, the half life of it's very short. Like the benefits are not that long lived.
The tent.
Yeah.
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 And I think, actually, I'm pretty excited to show you can have a successful gravel career without doing the Grand Prix, because
Agreed.
there's awesome races in the U.S.
Yeah.
that you can do that do not involve the Grand Prix, which what they're doing, just to clarify, is awesome.
Yes,
I'm all
yes.
for it.
Yeah.
I just don't think it's for me.
Right.
And there's some races in Europe as well that I'd really like to do, or in Iceland, the Rift.
So is Paul on board with that?
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're actually, Europeans are less into the Grand Prix and put less emphasis on it than the U.S. does, for
Okay.
sure. So
it
makes sense.
Yeah. At the moment, it is the premier U.S. racing, the domestic racing at the moment. But that said, and it's kind of like what we were talking about, bringing more women into the sport and so forth. I think it is enabling a broader base of the independent events to actually support that full tier of racers that aren't necessarily obligated to the Grand Prix. People that want to do their own calendar that suits them and go to the places that suit them. I think that's the one thing the Grand Prix is bringing to the table, is giving.
But you can't be the only female that thinks that.
No,
No,
a lot of the
there's-
Europeans feel that way,
Yeah.
and I think there's more in the U.S. now too.
Yeah.
There's And that's part of the reason we're doing the privateer, quite
Yeah.
frankly.
Yeah.
It's like, well, maybe it's not Lifetime Grand Prix level event, but if we can get 100 racers out there and still give a really good payday,
Mm-hmm.
and but keep to the roots of the grassroots gravel spirit. of
Privateer
things.
series is brought to you by ShiftLess as well.
It is brought to you by
Yeah.
ShiftLess.
Very
Well,
cool.
series. Is
Yeah.
it
That's
a
what I
series?
said. Well-
is it a series?
Oh shit, I don't know.
I think you just made it a series.
Well, in the
I like
future,
series.
in the
Series are cool.
future, it will be a series.
We'll do one in Texas. We'll do one in Georgia at least.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
That would be cool. So yeah, no, I don't think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
So is that 100%, or could your mind get changed? Like, let's just say you go and do rad and you finish first, and then what was the other race you said you were literally
Big Sugar.
and you
Big
go
Sugar.
and do Big Sugar and you finish top 5? Does that change your mind?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
But
I
you can
just-
still do those events next year a
Yeah.
la carte, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just.
And is that
Yeah.
something you have to say? Do you have to declare at the beginning of the season that you're going to be in the Lifetime Grand Prix hunt?
You have to apply.
Yeah,
have
you
to apply?
apply. If you place top 15, you're automatically requalified to
Right.
be in it.
And so you could just show up. You could change your mind right before the season starts.
I
if you're,
could, but potentially there's somebody else out there that didn't get accepted.
yeah, that deserves the spot. But
Yeah.
if you're not going to utilize it, I see what you're
Yeah.
saying. That's very compassionate of you.
Oh, well,
Oh,
Yeah.
that's so sweet of you.
it's a good
Yeah.
excuse.
No. It's
No,
very thoughtful.
Just for
Oh,
you to
thank
even
you.
be thinking along
Yeah.
those lines, top of mind like that.
Yeah.
That says a lot.
Oh, thank you.
That's the difference between female and males, right there. I don't see a
I know there's some females that are a little selfish too,
yeah,
but
I don't see
It
a
does happen for sure.
I don't see a male racer
I'm not,
having that
I'm
thought
not
process.
dropping any names. I'm not. And Emily's not going to drop any names.
But what
either.
I'm saying is, I don't see a male racer having that thought process and that compassion. Like, well, if I'm not going to use my spot, I should declare it so somebody else can have it.
I bet there's.
I think it just depends on the guy.
I think
Yeah.
it just depends on
Yeah.
the person.
Maybe I'm projecting.
You're
I'm such a dick. Maybe I'm just projecting. I'm sorry.
Is there anything that you were hoping we would bring up or talk about or discuss or ask you about that we haven't yet?
I mean, I came here pretty open, which
Yeah.
is. I think this has been super fun. I like just having a conversation. So this has been good for me.
I like random conversations. So, I did have a couple more questions for you.
Please.
Though. Like, what does... I realize that it varies from week to week and building up to events and coming down from events and everything else. But what does a typical week look like for you on average, I guess? Hours and miles. And what do you do the majority of your training on? Meaning, what bike, what discipline do you have? Are you on Zwift or whatever, Indy Velo or whoever? And, kind of...
Oh, good grief! Give her a chance to answer the question already, Brett.
Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
They give me lots of options.
Yeah.
Mostly always outside.
Yeah.
I'm not. I avoid the trainer. That
Yeah.
being said, I did get the Wahoo Rise.
Uh-huh.
I'm pretty excited about that because I have felt like my climbing is disproportionately bad to what my general fitness is. So I want to work on my climbing because I can't. And it does hit your muscles a little bit different. Like I fatigue on a climb faster than I would fatigue if it's just like some Texas kind of rolling terrain.
So I'm no coach, but I can tell you a super awesome tip.
Yeah?
Yeah.
What?
Off the air. I don't want to tell everybody my tip.
Well, no. You can't do that. That's selfish.
So I sucked at climbing forever. And I used to do 45-minute standing intervals on my training bike, my indoor bike. And I did that, and I did block intervals where I would, now this is back in the TV days, but I would be watching a show like Friends or whatever, and I would do standing when the commercials came on. That way I didn't know how long the commercials were going to be, but I just turned up the intensity and just stood up and just turned the pedals over.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, that's really cool.
So
I might give that a go.
And now when I see a hill, I don't go, you know. I'm like, let's get it over with.
Yeah.
But I'm also a single speeder by heart, so
Okay.
it kind of translates over to that. So, but
that's interesting. I might give that a go.
it definitely made a big difference in my climbing.
Yeah.
So I would park the front of my bike on blocks of wood.
Oh, so you did tilt it.
Yeah, so it would be inclined, and then
That
I
makes sense.
would get on there and I would warm up for like 2, 3, 5 minutes,
Mm-hmm.
and then I would stand up, crank down the intensity, and it was just turning the pedals over in a standing position.
Yeah.
And just doing like literally a 45-minute workout standing.
Which I haven't thought about doing it specifically standing, but I'm definitely going to be doing that tilt.
The riser does.
Yeah, just practicing that.
Yeah.
Are you technically a Wahoo-hooligan by chance?
Yeah.
Okay.
I know. That's kind of why I put it in there because I'm really excited about it.
Episode 70-something, also brought to you by Wahoo.
This should be 78 or 79, I think.
Something like that. That's why it's something.
That's why you said 70-something. Yeah, you're right. So how many hours are you trying to get per week on average?
At least 20 usually.
Yeah.
Yeah. Again, it depends. So off season, I'll try to get closer to 30.
Yeah.
And then in between races, sometimes it's more like 12 or 15, depending on the length of the race I have and so on.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, when you say 20 during racing season, is that including the race that week that makes it 20, or what?
If there's a race that week, yeah, for sure, I would try to do less hours
if
in a
there's no
race if there is a race.
Okay.
And then
so
I would end up
if
with-
you're doing a training week, no event in the mix, 20 hours.
Yeah, 20. Yeah, about
So
there.
how is that? 3 hours each day, or do you have an 8-hour day and a 1 hour day? What does that look like? How do you break up your 20 hours?
I mean, it kind of changes for sure over the season. But like, for instance, this week, I had to recover from Schwamigan, kind of, and more so the 16-hour drive afterwards.
Yeah.
So I took like 2 days pretty easy. And then today I did a 4-hour with an hour of high tempo to sweet spot, and then another 45 minutes towards the end of higher, like sweet spot to high sweet spot. Just to, because racing, it's hard. So just being able to sustain that higher power, because you need the VO2 max, and I do work on that too. But being able to hold that high sweet spot is really important.
Yeah.
And so we're trying to make sure we get enough time there. But then that'll be all I do this week, because I have the event on Saturday and I'm going to simulate a race. So I'll simulate the rad, what it was like last year, which it won't be quite like it because we're going to be a female only start. But basically it's like 10 minutes as hard as you can go from the gun.
Yeah.
And then high tempo sweet spot for like an hour, and then maybe a bit of recovery, and then you have 2 really long climbs. So I'll be doing tempo to sweet spot again for a couple hours in there, and then
that brings up a good point.
add some intensity. Yeah.
So you were talking about your carbs per hour earlier.
Yeah.
And so this weekend you signed up for the 105, right?
Uh-huh.
All right. So obviously you're not going to have a support crew or anything like that this weekend.
I can't tell you about James popping out of the bush. No?
Well, you can tell me about it. You'll
Just
pay for it. I know. So how on a self-supported 100-miler like that, do you just strap everything on the bike and go, or are you mixing at water jugs or everything in a hydrate? What does that look like for somebody of your caliber?
Yeah, I will start with 2 liters with the nutrition in it, and I'll do 1.5 liters on my back. So a total of 3.5 liters start. And then I'll stop at the 60-mile one, and I'll have my nutrition with me. So Untapped just has them in like little, like even the liquid stuff, or the stuff for liquid hydration. You can stuff it in your pocket. And so then I'll put that into my liter bottles and refill those. And then that should be good. So that's like, 5.5 liters? And then if I need to stop again, I'll do that last water stop.
Okay.
Yeah. And that would probably...
So basically you'll have the concentrate with you and mix your own as needed.
Yep.
And any solid calories?
I usually
Waffles?
maybe actually some dates. I've
Yeah.
been kind of, because those go down really easy.
I love dates.
Love
Yeah.
dates.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. This is the date table here.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're so good.
They are.
Especially if you sprinkle like salt on them.
Yes. Oh,
Yeah,
so good.
That's my plan.
Have you skilleted dates? Have you done those in a cast iron before?
I have, yeah.
With butter?
Not with butter though. I've done it with like when you stuff them, and you wrap them.
No, I'm talking about cast iron. Like split them open and put them on hot cast iron so they caramelize.
Okay, I'll try that.
It's so good.
That sounds awesome.
That's like the ultimate candy right there.
So good.
It's so good.
It's so good.
See, that's what I hate coming here because he always makes me so hungry.
I'm sorry.
Sorry, not sorry.
Sorry. Yeah.
Okay, very cool. So, all right, so your 20-hour training week.
And you're doing that on gravel or on the road?
I do. I mean, I don't ride gravel because it's just hard to get to in Fort Worth unless you're on the levee.
Yeah.
And I like riding from my home.
Yeah.
So
So do
I'll
I. Yeah.
I'll ride my gravel bike just because it's super comfortable and I like the 30 psi I've got in
Yeah.
there. But I do ride my road bike too.
Yeah.
It's also really comfortable. So a mix.
Yeah.
Yeah. Depends if
Okay.
I want to feel fast or not.
Yeah.
So, just riding around Fort Worth proper is your training venue, generally speaking.
Yeah, it's good. Like in Fort Worth, if you can go south, you can go west, or you can go north. You just never go east, of course, because of Dallas. So depending on the wind, so most often southwest,
Yeah.
down to Crescent or
Yeah.
out Bear Creek to Granbury, all the way around and come back up.
Yeah.
Or Weatherford.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have some good options actually.
That is good stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I don't know. I don't have many more questions.
Okay. What questions do you have for Brad?
What's your favorite meal?
So I'm an Asian fanatic. I love Japanese, Chinese, Vietnamese, Thai. I love Indian food. I love big flavors, big spice.
Okay.
But I love sushi.
So you I'm assuming, of course you make it.
Oh yeah, but so there's a bigger benefit to going to eat sushi because once you buy, 5 different fishes that are appropriate for making sushi, eating raw, and curing them, or doing a sake or marinade or aging or whatever, it's there's more cost and time involved in making proper sushi.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, most of the people that you're going to eat sushi that is made, these guys have been training exclusively. There's people that spend 10 years learning how to make rice for sushi.
Oh, really?
So in that case, it really is best to leave it to the experts. But I have bastardized sushi many a times. But I also love just good homemade pasta, like handmade pasta. And, I don't know, like on Sunday, I always tell my wife, I go, hey, today's your day, baby. Let's do this. Today's, and I call it, her name's Paula. And so I call it a Paula day. I go, we're going to have a Paula day.
Aww.
Like, we're going to do whatever you want to do. And she inevitably wants to eat Mexican food. So I was coming back from Forestburg this past weekend, working out there. And I work, like I said, I do every meal. I do all the cleaning, everything. And so I called her and I was like, hey, boo, I'm going to be home about 11 o'clock. I said, what do you want to do today? And she goes, no, what do you want to do? I was like, what? Never happens that way. So all of a sudden I was like, oh, what do I want to do? So we went to Hush in Keller, which is a sushi, very nice sushi place. And I've only been in there before where we were in a hurry. And this time we walked in and it was like, I don't know, 2 o'clock or 1:30, and there was nobody in there hardly. So we sat at the sushi bar and it was all us.
Oh, that's so
it was
cool.
really cool. Then we went across the street to Velo Cafe and checked out. I was looking at road bikes being weird. And
Dear God.
and drinking some coffee and just, talking bikes and stuff. And then we went into Roanoke and went to the Tappery. I forgot what it's called now. Pretty decent beer, decent whiskey selection. So Asian food for the most part. But it really depends on what mood I'm in.
Yeah. Yeah.
But if, like my wife and I have talked so often, we jokingly say, if anything ever happens to you, I'm marrying a Japanese woman because I love Japanese food. And she always says, if anything happens to you, I'm going to marry a Mexican man. And so
Nice.
it's obviously a joke, but given to my own devices, I would eat Asian food every meal pretty much because there's so much diversity within that. But I just think the flavors are a lot more exciting and exotic, if you will. You know, I don't know.
That's cool.
That's my jam.
What's your jam, Kevin?
Kevin likes food.
Obviously. My favorite food is whenever I can make it to a Food Adventures Memories meal.
You're such a sweetheart.
Brad actually, a Saturday or two a month, roughly speaking.
Yeah.
They have private parties here at the house.
How
and
cool.
does a 9-course meal.
9-course meal
Oh my gosh.
for 20 people. Yeah.
That
And
is so cool.
It's all a surprise. You don't know what's coming.
Yeah.
And he just brings out course after course, and then every single one of them's absolutely amazing. And one of these days, we're going to have a private ShiftLess party for 20 ShiftLess listeners to just come hang out with us. Ooh, that reminds me. So along those lines, I do want to, before I forget, can be completely selfish and do a couple of promo announcements. One, anyone listening, save the date, Wednesday evening, October 2nd.
Oh yeah, I'm coming, by the way.
Excellent. At the 2023 Rat 1000, we had a film crew that came out to film a documentary on their own. This was not a ShiftLess or Ministry production. It was Owen and Nick, and we're going to have a screening at the Movie Tavern in Denton of their documentary on Wednesday night, the 2nd of October. I think it's whatever the Wednesday night is, and that's just prior to the Rat 1000 start this year.
And you can buy a glass of beer there.
You can buy beer there and food and all that good stuff. Details should be, and the trailer should be coming out this weekend.
Very cool.
That's very cool. And another announcement, and this is definitely ShiftLess related. We have, I'm excited to announce that Lauren Stevens has offered to be our competition liaison for the Privateer Invitational Gravel Race. She's the racer. You're the racer. All we're doing is putting on a show. We don't really know what we're doing. So we want the Privateer Invitational to be the racer's race, and Lauren has stepped up to basically make sure that the racers' concerns are addressed, and we're not doing anything stupid that goes against what the racers want. So y'all's feedback is super important, and she's going to coordinate that. So there's no miscommunication, because a racer could tell me something that a racer says, and I hear it a way that's not what the racer intended for it to be. So I think it's very important to have that.
So scared money's on no drafting?
Smart money is on separate starts
Okay.
There you go.
with no opportunity for drafting.
Okay. I'm
But-
super stoked to see how all this shakes
That's my thoughts right now.
out. Yeah.
So once Lauren gets involved and starts telling me what the racers want, we'll make sure that it does balance out, because I have ideas on how to do stuff like that.
Who's going to be the male liaison?
Lauren is the competition liaison
Oh, okay.
for all racers.
Okay.
Regardless of gender. It's not women specific.
I didn't know. I wasn't trying to be sexist.
And
This time.
So we're really excited about that. Anything else anybody needs to throw in the mix, or have we taken up enough of Emily's time today, do you think?
I think she's been very generous with her time.
Exceedingly so.
Yeah. And it was a
been
pleasure
fun.
talking to you.
Likewise.
Yeah.
Very much.
Good stuff.
I think this is one of our best episodes ever, quite frankly.
Woohoo.
It's a pretty low bar, to be
Yeah.
honest with you.
It's
but
definitely on the podium.
Definitely. That's where Emily belongs.
Yeah.
That's right.
Go ride your bike.
Go ride your bikes.